So this is the final part of Chapter 11, Human Body Systems. This is part 11F. So this is, we're going to start to talk about the reproductive system. So this is kind of a reminder of earlier things that we studied. The correct chromosome number for humans is blank. Sperm and eggs have blank chromosomes. So hopefully you remember the correct chromosome number for humans is 46, and that remember in meiosis, sperm and egg cells end up having only 23 chromosomes. They are not in pairs. So males and females both produce, store, and deliver gametes, right? So despite their external differences, both sexes share the following similarities: a pair of gonads, the organs that produce gametes, a system of ducts that store and deliver gametes, and structures that facilitate sexual intercourse. So first, the male reproductive system. So urine and sperm are conveyed through a tube called the urethra. Okay, so you can see there is, so here's the bladder, and you can see that the urethra goes all the way down the penis. And the penis contains erectile tissue that, when filled with blood, produces an erection. The male gonad is the testes. That's where meiosis occurs. And the scrotum is an external sac that holds the testes and keeps them slightly cooler than body temperature. So a sperm is a haploid cell formed by the division of a diploid cell. So within the testes, what happens is diploid cells divide via meiosis, just like what we learned in the genetics unit, to produce haploid sperm cells that have 23 chromosomes. And this process of making sperm cells is called spermatogenesis. Now, the female reproductive anatomy, so you have the ovary, that is the female gonad, and that's where eggs are produced and released. And in this picture, it's a little hard to see, but the very end of the ovary is there. And then you have the oviduct or fallopian tube. That's the site where the egg and meets the sperm. It goes from the ovary to the uterus. And then the uterus is the site of the pregnancy where the embryo develops into a baby. So if you remember from when we talked about in the animal chapter, we talked about the development of the placenta with some types of mammals, and that occurs in the uterus. Now the vagina or birth canal is where the sperm enters and the baby exits, and that's kind of in this area right in here. Maybe I should use a darker color. So right in here. And then the vulva is the collective name for all the external female reproductive structures. So an egg is a haploid cell formed by the division of a diploid cell, just like in spermatogenesis, although in females it is oogenesis, and it occurs within the ovary. And a mature haploid egg is called an ovum. Now, a woman is born with many primary oocytes, a diploid cell that has been paused in meiosis 1 since before birth. And the human female reproductive cycle is a series of reoccurring events approximately every 28 days. So here you have the, this is the ovary, and here's the fallopian tube right in here. So day 1 marks the start of women's menstruation or period, and basically it is this 28-day cycle that is controlled by hormones, for example, estrogen, luteinizing hormone, and progesterone. And above you can see sort of the thickness of the uterine lining. So as menstruation occurs, the uterine lining is shed, and then it begins to thicken again. So by day 14, ovulation occurs. And remember that before birth, the female child has all the eggs that she will ever have, and they are sort of stalled in meiosis 1. And she won't actually have her egg complete meiosis 2 until after the egg is fertilized. And actually it comes in contact with the sperm. So as after ovulation, the corpus luteum develops at the site of the ovulation. It secretes progesterone, which promotes thickening of the uterine lining. And then by day 28, the cycle has been completed. And if the egg is not fertilized, then the menstruation will occur. If the egg is fertilized, then it's going to implant in the uterus, and the placenta will develop. So you can think about, some important differences in the male and human reproductive systems, but there are also similarities. So take a few minutes to kind of think about those. Now let's talk a bit about human development. So we all developed from a single cell, a single fertilized egg. The time from human fertilization to birth takes about 38 weeks. And during this time, a zygote develops into an embryo and then a fetus. And it's truly just an amazing, amazing process. Now, I'm not going to read through this for you. I'm going to let you look through this yourself. So just take the time to work your way through these slides and what happens, by day 9, 21, week 8, the first trimester, the second trimester, the third trimester, and then, of course, childbirth. So a few of these true false questions. True or false? The largest cell in the human body is the female egg. True or false? A fetus acquires fingerprints at the age of 3 months. And true or false? Sexual reproduction increases genetic variation, which increases the raw material on which natural selection operates. And actually, all of these are true. So let's talk a little bit about issues of reproductive health, okay? So the anatomy of the human reproductive system can help us understand certain issues with reproductive health, including contraception, infertility, and sexually transmitted diseases. So contraception methods vary based on male and female anatomy. Birth control pills are probably the most widely used, or patches. They work by containing synthetic hormones to prevent the formation of the gametes. The diaphragm and tubal ligation prevent joining of the egg and the sperm. Currently, the available male contraception depends on preventing the egg and sperm from joining, and these include condoms and a vasectomy. Now, infertility issues affect both males and females, but for different reasons. And it's kind of surprising that about 15% of couples are infertile. And that's defined as they are unable to conceive a child despite 1 year of trying. And there's many potential causes of infertility and several possible solutions. And the last thing is just a basic introduction to STDs, which I'm sure you've had in health class in high school and earlier. But of course, STDs spread by sexual contact, and they represent several organism types. So getting back to what we learned when we were studying diversity in chapters 8, 9, and 10. Some examples of STDs are, so gonorrhea bacteria. Okay, so this is a bacterial infection that causes an STD, gonorrhea. Herpes virus, so here is a virus that is an STD causing herpes. Trichomoniasis is a protist. And yeast infections are caused by a fungus. So yeast is a type of fungus. And of course, all of these are spread via sexual contact. And it's really important that individuals are screened for STDs annually, because sometimes, especially in women, they can be asymptomatic. So you might not know that you have them, but they can still cause damage.